For just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not have all the same function, so in Christ we, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. We have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. Romans 12, 4-6. We all come to this world with different abilities and ways of moving through each other's lives, and we all need food, shelter, love, grace, and meeting to find our way through the challenges that come our way. The importance of having access to these basic needs is obvious to most, but how we make the necessary changes in ourselves and our environment to grant an open path to worship can be challenging.
The world is changing and the church is changing. And as hard as that can be, sometimes we have to remember that God does not promise that we will never have to change. God does promise that when we follow the Holy Spirit, when we take more and more seriously what we believe and what we say in the baptismal covenant, for example, we will be given new life.
Physical changes can be expensive. Cultural shifts can be scary. And it can feel overwhelming to remember all the different things we need to do each day so we can all feel included. But our community at St. John's has not shied away from the challenge. Instead, as a community, we've set the common goal to reach across boundaries to welcome everyone looking for a spiritual home.
The hardest thing is to get an idea ingrained, and even I blew it the other day. I had put together a little teaching about something that we're talking about, and it had a lot of written materials. And I was very careful. I was translating all the materials and this and that, and I completely forgot to send them to have them turned into Braille.
It's about inclusion and this larger mission, and there's healing brokenness and extending borderless kindness are some of the words within our mission. And this is very deeply, it's not just felt and held here, it's weekly, daily acted on.
A disability is defined by the Americans with Disabilities Act as a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities, a record of such an impairment, or being regarded as having such an impairment. These can include hearing loss, blindness, mobility issues, and even ones we cannot see, such as learning disabilities, autism, and even mental health concerns like depression and anxiety disorders.
People don't know what they don't know, right? The unknown kind of thing is about disability in general. I think when you look at statistics, and I don't know the exact statistics, so I won't state them, but there's a high number of persons with disability who won't go to church because of the lack of accessibility. And so when I talk about the unknown, it's more about people just not knowing how to help, or, maybe like the church as a whole, not knowing what to do to ensure that services or anything that we do through the church is accessible to everybody.
I was walking down that sidewalk yesterday between here and the parish hall by myself. Usually I'm walking with Doug or, my dog or something. And it was just so narrow. And then we're looking for putting in some door openers to help folks with wheelchairs. And then if y'all want to go up to look at the choir area and film that, there's no space for a person in a wheelchair to be in the choir. So we're hoping to do something about that. I don't know what yet.
We do have pew cuts in certain pews, and they're not necessarily, and they are at the back, but they're a couple more, 2 or 3 rows ahead. But it's kind of like, I wish we could have pew cuts that were a little bit bigger, a little more cut, because once you get the wheelchair in there, and some wheelchairs don't fit this small square space. They need much more rectangular space, this way or that way.
You know how people go up for readings? I remember that we did, there was one time remember how I was in the vestry when I was little?
Acolytes.
Yeah, when we did that, I remember when I did it, they made me do the reading, and oh man, that was hard.
I'm sort of quiet, but I'll be paying attention, because I want to learn, I'll be wanting to learn and understand how things work here at St. John's, and I want to participate in the things that they do. So I pay attention.
Some of us have one of these, and others of us have many of these to deal with every day. But more importantly, we all come to this community with the ability to have a relationship with God and each other.
We have a wonderful opportunity here to become a parish that is easily accessible to people with, I love the way we're phrasing it, people of any ability or any abilities, and rather than focus on the disabilities, but the abilities and the variation of abilities.
God has put the body together, giving greater honor to the parts that lacked it, so that there should be no division in the body, but that its parts should have equal concern for each other. If one part suffers, every part suffers with it. If one part is honored, every part rejoices with it. 1 Corinthians 12:24-26.
As it goes, there's a woman who's had a hemorrhage for all this time. She had spent a lot of money on doctors, and they couldn't cure her. And the problem at the time was that kind of hemorrhaging made her ritually unclean. And therefore, somebody that nobody should be talking to or touching or having anything to do with. So she, is suddenly just completely outcast from society. And Jesus is passing by, and the crowds are pressing in, and she just works her way up and grabs his cloak and is healed just by that action. And he notices that and says, "What's going on?" And his disciples point out, there's this woman and she's done this, shall we send her away, kind of thing. And he says, no, and he calls her his daughter, and he incorporates her back into society. So that's what really we're trying to do, is build this loving society where nobody's excluded for any reason.
Inclusion is the act of inviting individuals into the community who have not felt welcome before. It's about actively changing the way things have always been done so that others can participate fully in the community and feel not only accepted, but asked to serve and lead the community toward a greater understanding of ourselves and our relationship with God.
You'll know when folks are really integrated when they can run something totally different, that they have all the tools and empowerment that they need to do that, so that we have a person who can't see completely in charge of all the readers. That would be a wonderful image.
One of the great things about Christianity is the emphasis that there is the least of us is the greatest of us, and the last is the first. I think that there's something very powerful about empowering someone to go out and to empower others and to serve others. So there is this huge demographic of people with disabilities who don't go to church, probably because of accessibility issues. We live in a built environment. We're not in the forest here. This is all man-made stuff. And I think in a lot of ways, we can make this stuff welcoming and accessible to all people, bring people into this community so that they can be ministers, so that they can be disciples, so that they can continue to be a part of the gospel, which I think is the idea. The first is last and the last is first. And we really, I think, believe that internally, and we're trying to make that like a mechanism for action.
Sometimes inclusion can be small acts of kindness. The best way to approach someone who is blind is to introduce yourself, then ask if they need assistance. If they agree, let them know you are offering your elbow. More than likely, they will walk a step or two behind you, so that changes in your movement guide theirs. Above all else, when you don't know what to do, ask, which is a good reminder for us to talk to each other with respect.
And then people will put something in our hands and say, "Do you know what this is?" That's another form of bullying, really, because they're testing us, and we're adults. We don't need to be treated that way. It doesn't really happen to us here because we're very vigorous in our education of our church family. But in public, it's constantly a problem. If there's a sighted person with me, then the stranger I'm trying to communicate with will likely talk to them because they can make eye contact with them.
Use available resources such as the Episcopal Disability Network and partner with the community for both help and outreach.
Next door was a real eye-opener for me. I mean, I had just joined the thing, mostly because I heard other parishioners talking about it so much that reached that critical mass where I thought, well, I probably better be on this thing. I think those types of connections, when you sort of say, we're doing this, do you want to participate? We're doing this, do you want to be a part of it? You know, we're offering this. Those are great ways for people to, see what we're about and who we're about.
Don't forget the changes we've already made.
We have taken on a lot here at St. John's in a very short amount of time. We are trying to become closer to our immigrant brothers and sisters who speak a different language and bring faith practices that are unfamiliar to many. We are trying to become more and more accessible to people of all different abilities. We are trying to reach out to our community in new and different ways. And we are beginning a 8 to 10 month and maybe more process of discernment about whether we will have same-sex marriages in this church. And I am so proud of you for not running away in fear, and for not wanting to escape that cloud of uncertainty and the uncomfortable feelings, but for faithfully moving forward. I'm so proud of you for doing that, even when it has been very uncomfortable. Because we're not a religion of comfortable certainties. We're not a religion of comfortable people. We are a faith that listens to the voice in the cloud and has the faith to follow Christ by listening and serving all people. That is where we learn the truth.
Make ways for everyone to actively participate in worship and the community as a whole.
As I started attending St. John's, there was the opportunity to get involved in refugee work. This to me was just, as far as trying to make a positive impact in the world, kind of a low-hanging fruit once I heard about it and once I understood, there's refugees who come to the country all the time with very little support, very little food in the cupboard or even beds to sleep on. Our community here at St. John's has been able to engage with that refugee group that's been coming to Austin in a lot of different ways. That has been an enormously rewarding endeavor.
My goal is, even if they never come to church, have no interest in it whatsoever, I hope people will know that we care about the community that we're in. That we want to make it a good community for everybody who lives in it, without exception.
Build on those changes and know that, as a community, accessibility, inclusion, and belonging can happen.
I'm not quite sure, except that I want it. My dream is that we would be able to have things on our website that tell people that they can come and they'll be welcomed. That my dream would be if we were having an active Sunday school program, that children who have autism or physical disabilities, cerebral palsy or whatever, would be able to participate, and that we can figure out how to make accommodations, and that families with children with disabilities would feel like they can come here and they can be a part of this community, and they can become, their faith and their knowledge of Christ can be deepened, and they can live into who they really are and who God has called them to be here, that they can do that here.